The appearance of the apartment house drew the comment from him that it was a good thing for their collective blood pressures the Chamber of Commerce and the All Year Club didn't know such things existed in the heart of Hollywood. "It's no better than I live in myself," he added. He whistled at the dismal living room and raised his eyebrows at the kitchen. Before I could mutter an introduction, Miss Frances growled without turning around, "If you've come about the icebox—" "Zounds!" exclaimed Goots. "A female Linnaeus! Shades of Dorothy Dix!" "I don't know who you are, young man, but you're extremely impudent to come tramping into my kitchen, adding nothing to the sum of knowledge but a confirmation of my sex, which would be plain to any mammal. If you've—" "Nein, Fräulein Doctor," said Goots hastily. "About the Kelvinators I know nothing. I represent, Fräulein Doctor, the Daily Intelligencer Zeitung." Miss Frances pierced his turgid explanation with a sharp spate of words in what I took to be German. Goots answered with difficult slowness, but he fumbled and halted before long, and, abandoning the Central European, became again the Southern gentleman. "I quite understand, ma'am, how any delicately reared gentlewoman would resent having her privacy intruded upon by rude agents of the yellow press. But consider, ma'am, we live in a progressive age, and having made a great contribution to science, you can hardly escape the fame rightfully yours. You are a public figure now, and must stand in the light. Would it not be preferable, ma'am, to talk as lady to gentleman? I am related to the Taliaferros of Ruffin County on the distaff side, than to be badgered by some hack journalist." Miss Frances squatted ungracefully on her heels and looked up from the flower pot she had been engaged with. "I haven't any objection to publicity, hack or otherwise," she said mildly. "I am merely impressed again by the invulnerability of newspapers to thousands of important discoveries and inventions, newsworthy 'contributions to science,' as you call them in your bland ignorance of semantics, in contrast to their acute, almost painful sensitivity to any mischance." Goots, unjointing disproportioned length carelessly against the sink, to the peril of several jars of specimens, didn't reply. Instead, he fluttered his arms and produced a $50, apparently from Miss Frances's hair, which, after exhibiting, he prudently pocketed. "Tell me, Dr. Francis. Miss, show me how you did that trick." "In a minute, Miss Frances. It's a honey, isn't it? Paid 4 bits to a fun house in Utica, New York, for it. Tell me, how did you come to make your great discovery?" "I was born. I went to school. I read books. I reached maturity. I looked through a microscope." "Yes," prodded Goots. "That's all." "Lassie," urged Goots, underlining the honey of his voice with a tantalizing glimpse of a rapid-fire snatching of 3 colored handkerchiefs out of the air, "'tis no sensible course you follow. Think, girl, what the press can do to a recalcitrant lass like yourself. You wouldn't like it if tomorrow's paper branded you, and I quote, 'an unsexed harpy, a traitor to mankind, a heartless, soulless—' Ah, shut up! What do you want to know?" "First," said Goots briskly, "what is this stuff?" "The metamorphizer?" He nodded. "You want the chemical formula? Wouldn't do me or my readers the least bit of good, and you wouldn't give it to me if I asked. Why should you? No, enlighten me in English." "It is a compound on the order of colchicine, acting through the somatoplasm of the plant. It is apparently effective only on the family Graminia, producing a constitutional metabolic change. I have no means of knowing as yet whether this change is transmissible through seed to offspring." "Hey, wait a minute. Producing a constitutional metabolic change. How do you spell metabolic? Never mind. The proofreaders will catch it. What constitutional change? Are you a botanist, young man?" Gooch shook his head. "An agristologist? Even an agronomist? Then you can't have the slightest idea what I'm talking about." "Maybe not," retorted Goots, "but one of my readers might. Just give me a rough idea." Plants absorb certain minerals in suspension. That is, they absorb some and reject others. The metamorphizer seems to give them the ability to break down even the most stable compound, select what they need, and also fix the inert nitrogen of the air to nourish themselves. Themselves, repeated Goots, writing rapidly. Okay, if I get you, which is doubtful, so far it sounds just like a good new fertilizer. Really? I tried to make myself clear. Now don't get sore, Professor. Just give out on what made the grass go wild. I can only hazard a guess. As I told Wiener, if you create a capacity, you engender an appetite. I imagine that patch of Cynodon dactylon just couldn't stop absorbing once it had been inoculated. Aha! Like giving a man a taste for bourbon, if it pleases you to put it that way. Okay. Okay. Now, let's have an idea how this growth can be stopped. Theoretical, you know. As far as I know, said Miss Frances, it cannot be stopped. End of Chapter 1 of Greener Than You Think by Ward Moore.